Hello everyone, watching in today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather next week to 10 days. In today's video, we'll also have a look at CFS V2 for the next month. So I've got a bit to cram in. I'll rattle on through it quite quickly. We've got the Central England temperature updated up to yesterday. So for the first week of May, this is provisional to the 8th of May, we come out at 10.9, which is an anomaly of just 0.8 of a degree above average. So that's come down a lot over the last 2 or 3 days, because this was running around a couple of degrees above average at the start of the month. So in the past few days, that's come down quite a lot. And the reason about, of course, have these chilly easterly winds, which have been feeding a lot of cloud. They've had low daytime temperatures. When the skies have cleared, it's been sunny and fairly warm by day, but the compensating factor with that is that at night it's been colder. So the upshot of it all is that we have brought the CET down quite a lot over the past week from where we started at the beginning of the month. We currently stand at just 10.9, which is less than a degree above average. This is probably going to move upwards again, though, over the next few days. So these are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average. So we're around average at the moment. It's actually a little bit colder than average with these easy winds. Through to the end of the week and the weekend, it turns milder. Then we get a little bit of a drop in temperature over the weekend and start next week. And it looks like we're pushing the temperatures up quite a bit there as we go through to the start of next week. So I talked about this in video yesterday. We may get our first push of proper summer warmth just for a couple of days through the early part of next week, which might lift the temperatures to around 22, 23 degrees, perhaps a little bit more in the south. So a couple of days, quite warm weather, and then it looks like we're cooling off again as we go through into the second half of May. That's this period just here. Precipitation, a lot of dry weather still to come over the next couple of days, but it looks like we're running out of steam with this prolonged dry spell. We're going to get some rain at the end of the week. That could be a little bit thundery actually Thursday, Friday in Saturday. Might be some heavy showers around. Into next week, there's more rainfall spikes coming through. Again, same idea I was talking about in the video yesterday. You wouldn't say that's a definitively very wet period, but it certainly looks more unsettled than anything we've had for quite a while. So I am beginning to think now maybe we might be on the start of a more unsettled spell actually through the middle part of May and into the second half of the month. Very interesting to see whether we are about to begin to break the prolonged dry spell. Temperature anomaly is looking like this for the next week. This is taking us from the 9th through to the 17th of May. We're coming out still just about cooler than average, although these are beginning to turn a little bit warmer, but still more or less cooler than average for the next week across the UK and Ireland and most parts of Western Europe as well. Notice how cold it is across Scandinavia and western parts of Russia. There's going to be some snow parts of northeastern Europe and western Russia today, and it's going to be staying cold there for the time being. Precipitation anomalies for next week do look a little bit more unsettled, especially so for the north. So coming out a little bit wetter than average for Scotland, drier than average for Wales and southwestern parts of England, near normal elsewhere. And overall, I think these are probably going to trend a little bit wetter over the next few days. We'll look at these through the remainder of the week. I suspect as we go through the week, these will be turning more unsettled. At the same time, the temperatures will be lifting up, of course. Temperature anomalies for America look like that. So it looks quite cold in the eastern part of the states. Then the Midwest is fairly warm. And then we have colder than average temperature anomalies across the Pacific western side of the states in the next week. Precipitation anomalies more or less dry than average for many parts of the states for next week, although it does look a little bit wet than average down across the far southwest, interestingly, but many places in America actually coming out drier than average for the next week. This is how the GFS is seeing things for Saturday. Then low pressure is out to the west and the southwest, throwing up rain bands across the country. Those are showery rain bands, so they might be quite heavy, and maybe a little bit thundery too. Into sunny. I think sunny will be the driest day of the weekend. A lot of fine weather coming through on Sunday. Probably still with showers, but nowhere near the extent that we have on Saturday. Then Monday, we can get high pressure building up from the south and southwest. That's starting to lift the jet stream to the north, and then this sets us up for our warmer phase that I was talking about yesterday's video. So high pressure builds up through France, it turns the winds into the south-southwest, that lifts much warmer temperatures up into the south, I say we might get temperatures going into the low, possibly mid-20s Celsius through the middle part of next week. But it does look fairly short-lived. So on Wednesday, still that warm air down in the south, but low pressures out in the Atlantic already starting to move in. By the time you go through to Thursday, that's pushed much cooler air back in from the northwest. So it's just a couple of days of almost summer-like conditions down in the south, and then we go back to cooler, fresher, showery conditions after that. We end next week, this is day 10, Friday 19th of May, in a cooler, showery, northwesterly type airstream. ECMWF looks like this, so it's unsettled at the end of the week and into weekend, low pressure out to the southwest, throwing up showery bursts of rain, which may be having possibly thundery. Sunday looks the best day of the weekend with this very slight transient ridge, especially so for the south. And then that ridge builds more as we go through into the early part of next week. This is Tuesday, 16th of May, week away, and we've got high pressure building nicely to the south and the east. Still unsettled in the northwest, still some showery rain for western Scotland and Northern Ireland. But for England and Wales, again, a lot of dry weather, sunny spells, and temperatures probably lifting into the low to mid-20s Celsius. That continues into the middle part of next week. And it's not really till the second half of next week that we begin to push this low pressure through. So the ECMWF is warmer actually than the GFS for longer, and I think that will definitely lift temperatures into the mid-20s Celsius through the middle part of next week, maybe even a little bit higher than that. However, this low pressure is coming in on Thursday the 18th, and it's coming into warm air, so that one might be producing thundery showers or even thunderstorms. So we finish up looking very unsettled actually by day 10. Much cooler air is coming through with a 990 millibar area of low pressure to the west of Ireland. That's a lot cooler, a lot more unsettled. But as I say, for a time, for the middle part of next week, the ECMWF really does get very warm indeed. Maybe a little bit overdone. I suspect the GFS looks the more plausible of the two, given the time of year, but we'll wait and see. Finally, have a look at CFS V2 for the next month. So 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period taking us from the 9th through to 15th of May. We find that for the coming week, we've got low pressure close to the country, so it is a more unsettled spell. I think this probably gives you an idea that it's going to be more unsettled than it really is, to be honest, over the next week. But there will be some rainfall coming through. We've already established that, especially Friday and Saturday are looking really quite unsettled, especially for the west and for the south. Week 2, which takes us from the 16th through 22nd of May, shows low pressure up to the north and the northeast. We've got the ridge out to the west and the southwest, and we're bringing a fairly coolish airflow in from the northwest. Still unsettled for the north, probably drier down in the south. Week 3 looks like this. So this one places a ridge out to west. It's a real ridge trough pattern. Ridge out to west, trough to the east, and then a ridge up to the northeast, which means that the jet stream, that's wrong, the jet stream is doing something a bit like that. And that one looks fairly unsettled, particularly for the eastern side of the country. Probably not all that warm either, because the air again will be coming down from a more west-northwesterly direction. And then finally week 4, which takes us from the 30th of May to the 5th of June, so we go into summer. Trough becoming cut off down to the south, ridge building over Scandinavia, and also going to the north of Scotland, and that's probably bringing in easterly winds. And this cut-off trough is quite interesting, because if that's pushing rain bands up from the south, that might be turning things thundery there as we're going through into the start of June. Could be quite a warm but thundery and unstable air mass, and perhaps wettest for the south. So that's how it's looking. I think for the next week we're going to be concentrating on the showery conditions at the end of this week and into the weekend. Friday and Saturday could bring some quite useful rainfall. Early next week, we've still got the idea that we're going to get a little push of summer warmth, especially around Tuesday and Wednesday. Down in the south, you could well see temperatures possibly going to mid-20s Celsius. I think it's short-lived, only lasts a couple of days, and then very quickly we push cooler and fresher air back in from the west. Right, tomorrow it's a 5-day forecast, and we'll also extend out beyond the 5-day forecast period as well. Probably include the Beijing Climate Centre for the next 40 days, so come back for all of that tomorrow. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.